1979. He's also the founder of RightTV, which is Sweden's first uncontrolled view. And before I give him the floor, I will just make you aware of something. As some of you know, we had the European Parliament letter and the European Commissioner petitioning these two institutions to take some action regarding our situation, and apparently these letters have been lost. So if anybody has some information about the letters, please come forward. But it seems they have been lost.
Melanie and me, we work together in UKAS, European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, and the old board was Dr. Rauni Kilde. They killed her with scalar weapons in February this year, and the chairman is Magnus Olsson from Sweden, the most well-known TI, one could say. They attacked him so horribly with beaming that he was not able to make the trip from Sweden to Berlin. But I shall give a greeting from him, and he has not forgotten us, and he is working as strong as he can. And he is just now organizing something very interesting with a lot of NSA whistleblowers in the United States, which perhaps will also help us further in the liberation of the targeted individuals. And then this is the last picture I took from Rauni in Brussels on the first covert harassment and mind control conference last November. There she was very healthy and no problems, and then she wanted to publish her book, and she said there are some disputes with my publisher, there must be some changes, and then suddenly she was murdered in February. So we miss you very much, Rauni, and thank you very much, Rauni, for all the fantastic work you have done to open eyes for people on many topics which are very important. So when Peter Moring asked me, oh, could you say something about the legal aspects of mind control? You are a lawyer at least. And I said, well, that's not a thrilling topic, because if there would be a way to sue somebody and use the legal tools, the legal weapons, I would have done it since. But I did not found it. Principally, from a legal point of view, mind control is bodily harm. But bodily harm is difficult to grasp, and the victims of mind control, they suffer more. That is more than only bodily harm. So I suggest there should be a new qualification in the criminal laws just for being a victim of covert harassment. That this is a special crime and not something under bodily harm. Also bodily harm is not even often used in the English language, Körperverletzung auf Deutsch. So there's a suggestion we could improve something. And then the main topic is a lot of TIs ask me, oh, can you be my lawyer? I want to sue the police or my neighbor or others. And I always ask, okay, give me the evidence that they are the culprits. And then they don't come as evidence, it's in their heads. And the typical situation for the TIs is the gang stalking. And they think it's the people making the gang stalking who are the culprits, or the neighbors or family members. But this is usually not the case. The culprits are those staging this theater of gang stalking, and those who are making the gang stalking, the neighbors and so on, they are also victims of mind control. So it doesn't help if you sue them, and usually they don't have a penny. The first thing they do with a TI, they strip them of their money so that they can defend themselves so much. And therefore we are very lucky that Peter has had the financial means to make these two conferences, and he should get an applause for, please. And I have to correct all the speakers who told us that they use electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic harassment, electromagnetic fields, and so on. That is wrong. They haven't done their physics. We know better because in the United States we have a guy called Tom Bearden, a retired lieutenant colonel, and in Germany we have Professor Konstantin Meil. They have shown us that it is scalar waves and other type of wave they use. That is very, very important because all the countermeasurements for shielding tinfoil heads and Faraday cages did not help the TIs because it is not a question of electromagnetic waves, it's scalar waves. It is a longitudinal wave, the scalar wave, which is building a standing wave, a standing resonance between the victim and the computer, steering the victim. And these scalar waves, they penetrate the whole Earth if they want. Therefore, the shielding is difficult. And therefore I say to people coming to me, oh, can you help me as a lawyer? Well, whom shall we sue? Perhaps your perpetrator is sitting in China with a little computer and steering you, because this is technically fully possible. And therefore it has, for me, never been shown a legal situation where I can do something. And I promise you I would do if there would be something. My other main research topic is the banking reform, because we have a banking scam which is enslaving humanity. And in Sweden, I made legal actions against the banks, because there I had a legal point, a legal aspect to attack. Of course, I lost. That's the next problem. If you find something, then all the judges, especially in the higher instances, are under my control. They would never make a career in the high courts if they are not easy to target with mind control. So even if you get evidence and things like that, you would never succeed because the judges don't help. And the prosecutors and police, of course, in the higher echelons, they are all victims of mind control. I now go through some cases where there are efforts to get some legal help. There was this Scottish Dr. Evan Cameron. I call him for Dr. Evil Cameron. He was at McGill University in the 50s making research on humans without their consent. And this was later public knowledge because of some very very skillful and good journalists from the New York Times. And that led to that the Canadian courts awarded $750,000 to be shared by 9 victims of mind control. It was a so-called O'Killock case. And there was a little bit success, and they addressed the state. Well, legally, it's not a bad idea. In practice, it is not the state. It is parts beyond control of the state making the mind control. Then here the church committee. I think most of you are well familiar with that. In the 73, 75. And this was because some journalists from New York Times had headlines on the first page, push button people and so on. And they really started a good campaign to focus on mind control. That was the first and the last time that journalists did that successfully in that scope. And this led to our knowledge about MK Ultra and all these programs we heard yesterday and today. And there a lot of TIs got a settlement with the US state, and they got $100,000 at that time in the midst of the 70s. It was a lot of money, but it was a settlement. So there were never detailed discussions who controlled whom and so on. But anyhow, it was good. And yesterday we heard from Nick Begich, the Frank Olsson case. This is a guy with Swedish ancestors working for the CIA, and they used him to make abusive research on humans, and he was a good guy when he detected how awfully they mistreated people. He wanted to blow the whistle, and therefore the CIA threw him out the window of a hotel in New York. I think it was the 83rd floor, and he was murdered, and it was covered and hushed up. And then later on there came a lot of evidence, it was, as I told yesterday, Dick Cheney and this other horrible neocons, which at that time worked at the Department of Defense under the Ford administration, who then arranged for the family of Frank Olsson a settlement of $750,000. But in spite of that, and this is interesting, now 2012, this Olsson family again sued it's the next slide. No, it was that one. They again sued the CIA, and this case is still going on, and I don't know how it developed. I don't think so they will come so far. And they have the special obstacle that they made a settlement and already got money, so I don't think they will succeed. This case is obviously totally unknown. This was by a guy who worked for the NSA in the 80s. The first NSA whistleblower, John Sinclair Orquay. Nobody obviously have heard. Who have heard about him? Ah, some, great. He started a civil action here, 92-0449, at the District Court of Washington against the NSA in Fort Meade, and he did not succeed. The court not even allowed to start the litigation. They said being unable to identify any legal course of action. So it was a good start, and of course the court should have listened to him. He was an insider, but mind control on the judges, or perhaps blackmailing, we don't know exactly, but they control the whole legal system. He didn't even make it into a court proceeding. And I have the own experience with my Estonia litigation. I got almost 1,000 victims of the Estonia catastrophe, which was a ferry boat between Estonia, Baltic state, and Stockholm. And 21 years ago, they sank it deliberately. We have all the evidence. We started a litigation in Paris, 96, and up to date, not one day in that litigation was about the question who's responsible for the sinking of the Estonia. Only rubbish questions. So wherever you go, and I choose to go to Paris because it was far away from Sweden and so on, it didn't have, they have the control over the legal system, and therefore I always say just now the time is not right for it. But there are very interesting statements in the writ of summons from this NSA litigation from '92, detecting EMF fields in humans for surveillance. The subject's bioelectric field can be remotely detected, so subjects can be monitored anywhere they are. That is very vital information from an NSA whistleblower. And next point, also the writ of summons is very long. This is only some points I copied. With special EMF equipment, NSA cryptologists can remotely read remote potentials from EEGs. And isn't it interesting that Snowden also was an NSA cryptologist? And of course Snowden stole evidence about mind control, but Greenwald and what they all are called, they are withholding it. I touched Snowden then again. These can be decoded into a person's brain state and thoughts. The subject is then perfectly monitored from a distance. NSA personnel can dial up any individual in the country on the Cygnus intelligence EMF scanning network, and the NSA's computers will then pinpoint and track that person 24 hours a day. So this was his experience in the 80s. So you can imagine how the technology is today, because they are not sleeping, they are developing. And getting the most money in Europe, the Human Brain Project, Sweden got more than 1 billion euros for that. And then one interesting point of the NSA can pick out and track anyone in the US. Yeah, now we know that because of Snowden also. NSA Cygnus intelligence use, female brain stimulation, EMF brain stimulation has been in development since the MK Ultra program, early 15s. We know the resulting secret technology is categorized at the National Security Archives as radiation intelligence, defined as information from intentionally emanated electromagnetic waves in the environment, not including radioactivity or circular nuclear detonation. Here they also make the mistake, say electromagnetic waves, but at that time, that was before Tom Bearden, one can understand that. Because there was a cover-up on this scalar waves. They are also sometimes called Tesla waves, because Tesla was the first to detect them for more than 100 years ago. And here is also from the litigation. We have a little time. You can then see it on the film. They will lay on internet. And this is information I got from Magnus Olsson, the chairman of UCAS, European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, that the main whistleblowers, NSA, not the guy we just talked about, but others, Thomas Drake, Diane Rowe, Loomis, J. Kirk Weber, William Binney, they have filed a civil rights lawsuit against the NSA, FBI, and Department of Justice. And in this, parts of mind control questions are also showing up. But this is just done recently. You see, this is the 24th of August this year they filed this lawsuit. It was in some major papers in the United States. Here in Europe, you never heard about it. And we only can wish them luck. And again, Snowden. Do you remember when Snowden was on his way to Moscow, to Russia, to get asylum there? Putin made a press conference and said, Snowden is welcome to Russia, but only one condition. He shall not proceed to harm the United States. And I heard, what's that? The only explanation I have is, Putin said between the lines to Snowden, shut up about mind control. I know you have a lot of evidence which you took with you, but shut up, because we in Russia do it as well, and we don't want to get it exposed. So this is also a suggestion where we should change the law. We should change the burden of proof, especially in civil law cases, also not criminal law. The burden of proof means that if you sue somebody, you have to come with the evidence that what you say is right. In the cases of mind control and TIs, this is very difficult because they destroyed all the evidence. It's not so easy to get evidence, and there we in law have a rule that you can change the burden of proof. If there are only indications that you are a TI and who is behind it, then it should be sufficient to sue, and then they have to show that they are not guilty. So that is an easier way to cope with it. But this is, of course, only in the long future. To get through this litigation, you have to convince all the politicians, and guess what? They are also under severe mind control, of course. Otherwise, they would never be able to make a career. This weapon, mind control, is used every day on almost every human. It has a scope. Nobody really realizes how far it is. And here some efforts in the legal work. In Russia, Putin changed the law from 1906 and banned mind control. But that is hypocrisy, because in practice they still do it. I know a lot of Russian victims, personally. So, but anyhow, it is better than nothing, because if we at least have it in the law, then it's easier to fight against it the day we have more evidence. And the supplement to this old law was weapons and other objects whose damaging effects is based on the use of electromagnetic, light, thermal, infrasonic or ultrasonic emission, and which have the output parameters which exceed the values established by the state standards of the Russian Federation, and which correspond to the standards of the federal organ of executive power in the area of public health, and also indicated weapons and objects produced beyond the limits of the territory of the Russian Federation. And I only can applaud to Mr. Putin that he had the courage to at least giving us a sensible law. And the Russians have some other words for the scalar waves. Here they have infrasonic and ultrasonic emission, that they mean the scalar waves, because sonic waves, sound waves, are also longitudinal waves. And you can say every longitudinal wave is a scalar wave. And then it is questions what kind of particles they move. If it is a sound wave, they move air molecules. If it is a light wave, they move photons. And if it is quicker than light, they move neutrinos. And those quicker than light with neutrinos, our body is using, and therefore they are using it in mind control, and therefore they can target us from China and satellites or wherever they want, because it is very quickly and penetrates everything. The neutrinos have almost no mass and don't interact so easy. Here we see that it was Putin who signed it in the 26th of July 2001, but in practice it didn't help. And the same thing is in California, Michigan, and Missouri. They changed the law. Okay, the time. And Nick Begich yesterday complained that the EU also changed a little bit, but it didn't help. And in the United States, there was an attempt for the whole country, the Space Preservation Act of 2001 from Dennis Kucinich. This was written from Alfred Lambermont Weber. He's the brain again behind that, and he helped us in UKASH also to draft a new law which we gave to the Libre Committee. It was Melanie who did it in Brussels, yeah, tell us the echo.
Yeah, so I went a meeting with at the time, it was the chairman of the committee. It's a Spanish gentleman who is called Juan Fernando Lopez de Ayala. And so we handed it in, this proposal, legislation proposal. I think Consuelo Burma was with me, the Spanish victim, so she can also testify to this. And we were told that, yeah, thank you very much. And then how conveniently it was just another chairman that came along and just kind of got lost in the, in the circuit.
Yeah, but at least we tried. And here are some texts, and we also included scalar weapons, psychotronic weapons. The other Russian expressions for scalar weapon is psychotronic weapons. Leo from Sweden yesterday came in with a very good suggestions, which we did not put in that, but we shall complete it. You must have a rule that every human gives his consent, agrees to be hooked up to the computer. So the connection between a human and a computer, which is very easily done today with a brain-computer interface from different kinds, this must be forbidden. They need a written statement that we agree on that, and this we must have also in this rules. This we forgot. As I told earlier, all the judges are under my control. I am more practicing law as a lawyer more than 25 years in 3 different countries, Sweden, Germany and France. But there's one special court I want to mention. And I start with the Karolinska Institute. Ulla is coming from it. It's located in Solna, that is a little community north of Stockholm. And this is the center for the mind control research in Sweden, together with the military. They are getting the money later. They are getting the money from the Human Brain Project and other big project, the OSHA project, and which was designated, they should take other monies and so on. And the interesting thing in the surrounding of this Karolinska Institute, which is giving every year the Nobel Prize in Medicine, there are astonishingly a lot of TIs. For example, Magnus Olsson, when he lived in Solna, he was hooked up and targeted. Or the well-known killer of Anna Lindh, the Swedish foreign secretary, which got murdered on the storehouse of Enco in September 11th, 2003. Mikhail Mikhailovich, he is called. He said, I heard voices who gave me the order to kill Anna Lindh. The voices came from Jesus and God. That is typical mind control operation. In this case it was the Mossad, because Anna Lindh criticized Israel for their horrible politics in Palestine. And therefore she was murdered, and this was a sign to all the other politicians to keep quiet about the critics against Israel. And surprise, surprise, the worst court I ever had personal experiences from in my whole life. This is the district court of Solna, so you can connect the dots yourself. And so forget the legal way just now, waste of time and money and energy, but concentrate on the shielding instead. There we have made efforts. 80% of those who have taken the homeopathic gold, Aurum Metallicum, every day, have got better or totally liberated. The gold is building a frequency shield against the scalar waves. How the gold exactly is doing it, I haven't figured out yet, but it is working. When I asked Simon Parkes how it works, he says yes, the gold is changing the frequency range of the human so that the perpetrators lose the resonance. And so this is my recommendation to all of you always. Have you taken your Aurum Metallicum homeopathic gold? The higher the potencies, the better. This is not working with chemistry. This is not a medical advice. It's a technical advice. Because in the homeopathic remedies are no molecules. They are not working with chemical reactions, but with physics, with wave interference. And especially scalar waves, because the homeopathic remedies, they emit scalar waves. And in this case, the frequency pattern of the gold, the metal gold, is giving the shielding. And one last word. Melanie, perhaps you can tell. There is a guy in Austria who now wants to sue with the help of the Scharf laws. The Scharf laws are occupation laws against Germany from the end of the World War II. Germany is legally not an independent state. It is still under occupation of the United States, United Kingdom and France, but not Russia. Russia really liberated Germany when the reunion was 25 years ago. Tomorrow there will be a big celebration here in Berlin for the 3rd of October. But the damned Western powers didn't liberate. And there are still the Scharf laws. And under those laws, every criminal act from the Englishmen, Frenchmen and Americans is not able to be taken up in the courts here. So you can talk about him, and I say goodbye.